In December of 1911, a group of Norwegian and Swedish homesteaders formed a Scandinavian Lutheran church in the town of Boxelder, Montana. The congregation met in local homes for several years until they finally laid the cornerstone of Faith Lutheran Church in 1917. Like many other small towns in central and eastern Montana, the people of Faith Lutheran witnessed the steady demise of their once prosperous community because of a deficiency of economic growth, and in October of 2005, lack of membership forced the people of Faith Lutheran to close their doors.
All throughout the life of Montana, we've seen its boom and bust, and we've seen shrinking agricultural areas. And of course, this is a part of that. We're living in an area where a once vital congregation, there was a lot more people, and just a lot more folks that made up these congregations. And as farms got bigger, young people left the communities, and the bigger towns were magnets for jobs, and we didn't need as many people. Congregations found it more and more difficult to operate.
Declining membership is just what is the whole situation of it, and just gradually going down. And the older ones older people who was supporting the church, see, and when they passed away, and just feel worn. And there's been very few of the children coming to church here, so to keep it going. They moved away too, so.
When I came, there were, perhaps 10, 12 people a Sunday here. And then one of the prominent families moved away to Helena. And just financially, it really wasn't possible for the congregation to continue to pay for certain pastoral services.
There was the Sundays when you'd come, and of the 8 or 10 of us, there would be 4 of us. Well, 4 plus the preacher, that's pretty skinny congregation, and it isn't, it doesn't work. And financially, it was just running out.
Well, we didn't want to do it, but we just got to the point there where we was having a hard time getting enough finances to meet the obligations there. We're going to have to do something, that's all there's to it. And we had the bishop up here and talked to him, and he said he understood the situation. He said, it's happening all over. He said, these small churches that just can't keep going. So it's too bad, but there's nothing we can do about it.
Well, the way I first heard about the closing of Faith Lutheran Church came through an email from Bishop Omland. Bishop Omland, very good about keeping all the folks in the Montana Senate informed of the life of the church. And he had sent out an email asking all of us across the state to hold the people of Faith Lutheran Church in our prayers, as they had made the difficult decision to close their congregation. And then there was a PS at the end of the email that said, if there's anyone out there that could use pews or altar or lectern, please call Deanna Bitts, and listed a phone number, and that's kind of where the whole journey started.
I couldn't believe it, because he said, he was asking, what we had in the church that would be available for whatever he might need. And then we just got to talking more and more, and he talked about little white church, and he said, does it have a steeple? I said, yes. And it has a bell. He said, does it have a bell? I said, yes, it has a bell, and it has two different chimes or whatever, And so he said, don't do anything yet about the church. He said, let me talk to some some of the directors or somebody. He said, I'll call you back in a half an hour, and I thought,
I mean, we were very doubtful until, for quite some time that it was true and stuff. In fact, I think we still have a few members that say, well, I don't believe it till I see it being moved.
everybody was kind of, what are we going to do with this church? What are we going to do with it? We can't leave it here. What are we going to do? Where are we going to put it? Are we going to sell it or what? And I could come in and say, hey, I have this guy on the phone that says don't sell the church, and then he calls back in a half an hour and says, we'll be down to look at it.
Not only says don't sell it, but he's just ecstatic and giddy and full of energy about it. And I mean, to convince anyone that it's possible to move this church or feasible or even worthwhile, it takes someone with a lot of energy and gusto.
And I said, and so she says, well, we need to meet you. Like, who is this slick car salesman from Billings, Montana, anyway? She didn't say that, but I know that's what she was thinking. She said, well, we need to meet you, and you need to come up and see the church. And I said, well, I got everything I need in life but time. My wife was actually over in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, over the 4th of July. Her mother had some surgery, and she was there taking care of her. And I knew I was going to be there coming back to Billings on Monday, the 4th of July. So as I left Coeur d'Alene, I said, what I can do is when I get on the interstate, wherever the right place, I'll just head north. And then I'll come up to Boxelder and meet you and look at the church. And she was thoughtful and quiet for a minute, and then she told me, she says, that's not going to work. I said, why? And she said, well, one of the 4 families is going to be gone. And I thought, so? I'll meet the other 3. Oh no, she said, we all need to meet you. And then it kind of dawned on me. This was like an open adoption.
I feel that a part of me kind of belongs to this church because my parents were so influential in seeing that it got built and helping pay for it, and all the socials that they had to get together and so they could make a little bit of money to kind of help pay for the church and stuff here. And so I just feel like it's part of the community, and really I was so happy to hear that it was going to be moved, and that way it'll be preserved.
Moving the church would prove a Herculean accomplishment for the People of Faith Lutheran and for St. John's Lutheran Ministries. The church would have to be lifted from its foundations and travel over 275 miles across rugged, winding terrain on 2-lane highways and dirt roads. This trip would cost St. John's over $86,000, part of which was raised by members of the church, and another large part of it was raised by Thrivent Financial for Lutherans. In the summer of 2006, Kent Burgess and St. John's were able to find one man up to the challenge, Dwayne Ostermiller of Billings.
This was just an ordinary job. It wasn't any harder than any of the rest of them as this type of building. There's quite a few hours goes into loading it, rolling it off of the hole, and then loading it onto the wheels. There's several hours of hours going into that. Then we're ready for the road.
Thrivent Financial for Lutherans donated $30,000, and this was a matching grant, so we needed to raise another $30,000 in order to receive all of it. So basically, the goal was $60,000. I think we're pretty close to that. What we wanted people to do was to donate $100 for every mile between here and Billings, and it's about 270 some miles. We're going to have power lines and phone lines and on all the way through the trip. That's part of the, that's probably the largest part of the cost, is paying for those crews that will be moving those lines all the way. And so you have many different companies that are involved. You have Triangle Telephone, you have Northwest Energy, on and on. And yeah, you're going to see there's apparently 50 of them between here and Big Sandy in a 10-mile stretch. So this is going to be kind of the part that slows it down the most. And there'll be a lot of that when we get into Billings on the north side.
The church left Boxelder on September 12, 2006. Rain delays slowed the arduous journey considerably, but the little white church finally arrived in Billings on October 4th. The church now rests upon a new foundation in the middle of an open field, where St. John's Lutheran and Atonement Lutheran Church plan to build their future projects.
Our complex will be up over in here. There'll be a kind of a courtyard area connected with parking lots in this area here with the little church kind of facing over toward ours. And then that goes right into the senior housing project the church does, will be connected right behind this.
Now that the church has made its journey across the backroads of Montana, there is still much work to be done in order to complete its restoration. Burgess estimates it will take at least another $100,000 to complete the project and properly restore the church.
But on the old church, what we'll do now that after it gets placed over the hole is we'll go ahead and start the construction in the basement, getting all of that done. Steeple needs quite a bit of renovation, so that'll be done. Probably will not be completed till spring and then set back up on the church. This is much like Town Square out at St. John's. This is where a lot of major activities kind of generate a nice gathering spot and just a focal point to, for people of faith together, and it's just a neat concept, the whole thing.
In some ways, what's interesting is that it's somewhat allegorical, the move to St. John's campus up in the Heights, where a church in some ways has a lifespan. It was born, it lived its life, it served a purpose, it was a productive member of the community, and now in its golden years, it's moving to a retirement home. There's a certain irony to that.
I'm originally from Boxelder, and when I was in 1939, when I was 4 years old, I was baptized in that church, and in 1950 it confirmed. So then I came to Billings in the 50s and been here ever since, and it's unbelievable that thing's going to be only 2 miles away from me where I'm living here in town.
I just am happy to see that it's going to go to a place that will be used, in the same situation that we used it, to worship in, to have weddings in, and I'm just very, very happy see this happen to the church. So anyway, it's going to be a happy landing for this church, and it makes me happy too.
As the dawn breaks in the new year of 2007, for the church building of Faith Lutheran, a new chapter in its odyssey as a place of worship begins. Once on the brink of abandonment and possibly destruction, the words of Psalm 102 may have seemed appropriate. Hear my prayer, O Lord, for my days pass away like smoke, and my bones burn like a furnace. I am like a lonely bird on the housetop. My days are like an evening shadow. In the end, there are 3 odysseys that the Faith Lutheran Church building has endured. The first was to shepherd and nurture the Lutheran congregation of Boxelder. That journey ended in October of 2005. The physical journey of the building from Boxelder to Billings was its second odyssey, which allowed it to begin its third, a renewed place of worship for the people of St. John's new retirement community in Billings. The first immigrants who began this church on the open Montana plains had a dream. That dream has taken on a life of its own, and that dream has been revitalized by the second chance it has been given. This is not merely the story of a church being moved, but the story of a people's faith in motion, the story of a people's history that is not dead and gone, but that is very much alive today.